Mass exodus ahead. Canada plans to cut 445,000 temporary residents in 2025. Welcome back to Canada Chronicles. Canada is preparing for one of the biggest shifts in its immigration system ever. The government's new plan calls for cutting nearly 500,000 temporary residents in 2025, with even more changes on the horizon. These decisions will reshape student opportunities, foreign worker programs, and entire communities across the country. Stay tuned until the end, because we'll also reveal the 2026 surprise. Temporary resident arrival caps could bite harder than 2025, a development that could have an even bigger impact than the cuts announced for this year. If you don't want to miss important updates like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you're always ahead of the curve. Let's get started. Canada's immigration system has long been admired for its openness, but the 2025 to 2027 Immigration Levels Plan marks a dramatic new direction. For the first time, the plan does not only focus on how many permanent residents Canada will admit, it now includes specific targets to shrink the number of temporary residents in the country. The government has committed to cutting 445,901 temporary residents in 2025, nearly matching that with a 445,662 reduction in 2026, and allowing only a small rebound of 17,439 in 2027. This amounts to nearly 900,000 fewer people in just 2 years. The goal is to reduce the share of temporary residents from 7% of the Canadian population down to 5% by the end of 2027. This means almost 2.8 million non-permanent residents will no longer be in Canada over the 3-year period, a shift that will touch every part of society, from universities to farms to housing markets. The scale of the problem. At the beginning of 2025, Canada had almost 3 million temporary residents, including international students, temporary foreign workers, asylum seekers, and others. Together, they made up a record 7.1% of the population. The new plan signals that the government sees this level as unsustainable. Officials point to 3 main reasons. First is the housing affordability crisis. With students and workers competing for the same apartments as Canadian families, rents in major cities have climbed to historic highs. In Toronto and Vancouver, shortages have forced many students into overcrowded or unsafe conditions. Second is the strain on public services. Hospitals, schools, and transit systems have been stretched thin. Critics argue that allowing high numbers of temporary residents without expanding infrastructure has worsened wait times and access. Third is political pressure. Public frustration has been growing, and both provincial and federal leaders are under pressure to show that immigration is being managed. By reducing temporary residents, Ottawa aims to ease these pressures quickly, but the impact on communities and industries will be enormous. Impact on international students. International students are among the most affected. In 2024, Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada introduced new attestation letter requirements for many applicants, already limiting access. Then in September 2025, the financial requirement for proof of funds was raised to 22,895 Canadian dollars for a single applicant, ensuring students can meet living costs. With the new plan cutting nearly 500,000 temporary residents, students will clearly represent a large portion of the reduction. Many institutions, especially private colleges, could see dramatic drops in enrollment. Smaller schools that depend heavily on international tuition may face closure. For students already in Canada, switching programs or transferring schools has become more complicated. Since May 2025, students who accept a new letter of acceptance often require a brand new study permit to transfer. The result is fewer options, higher financial barriers, and stricter rules. Pressure on temporary foreign workers. The temporary foreign worker program is also being reshaped. On June 27, 2025, the government raised wage thresholds for labor market impact assessments, requiring employers to pay higher salaries to hire workers through the program. This was promoted as a way to protect Canadian wages, but also makes hiring foreign labor more expensive. Lowering demand. Political voices have added to the pressure. In September 2025, British Columbia Premier David Eby urged Ottawa to reform or even abolish the program, saying it harms youth employment and adds to housing demand. The Conservative Party of Canada, led by Pierre Poilievre, has gone further, calling for the program to be scrapped entirely except in agriculture. Despite these calls, more than 105,000 new permits were issued in the first half of 2025, already surpassing the cap of 82,000. This shows the ongoing reliance of industries such as farming, hospitality, healthcare, and construction on foreign labor, even as the government pushes for reductions, deportations, and enforcement rising. The Levels Plan is not focused on deportations, but removals are rising. By the end of 2024, Canada had deported 7,300 people, the highest in nearly a decade. The Canada Border Services Agency has since announced plans to raise annual removals to 20,000. Most removals are rejected refugee claimants, but others involve overstays or people who lost their status during processing delays. Combined with the planned cuts, this trend creates growing insecurity for many migrants. Economic and demographic consequences. The Parliamentary Budget Officer has warned that these reductions could cause Canada's first-ever annual population decline in both 2025 and 2026. That would be unprecedented in modern history. Modeling shows Canada will lose about 1.4 million residents by 2027 compared to earlier projections. Real GDP could fall by 1.7%, even though GDP per capita might rise by 1.4%. The number of hours worked will decline significantly, hitting industries such as agriculture, healthcare, hospitality, and construction the hardest. For employers, this means fewer workers at a time when shortages are already a major concern. For the economy overall, it means slower growth even if income per person improves. Housing and community impacts. Reducing temporary residence should, in theory, help with housing, but the effects are complex. International students often rent small apartments or dormitories that are not easily converted into family housing. If schools shrink, landlords near campuses may face empty units, while rents in big cities may remain high due to other demand. Communities that depend on migrant labor, such as farms in Ontario and Quebec or fisheries in Atlantic Canada, may face disruption. Without workers, crops may rot in the fields, businesses may close, and local economies could shrink. The 2027 rebound. Too little, too late. The Levels Plan allows for a rebound of just 17,439 temporary residents in 2027. This is a tiny figure compared to the losses in 2025 and 2026. It is unlikely to be enough to repair the damage to schools, businesses, and communities that depend on these populations. Many see the rebound as symbolic, a way to show flexibility while maintaining the broader cap. Thanks for staying with us this far. We appreciate your time and hope you're finding this information valuable. The 2026 surprise, temporary resident arrival caps could bite harder than 2025. Much attention has been on the 445,901 cut in 2025, but 2026 may be the real turning point. In addition to overall reductions, the government has introduced temporary resident arrival targets for each year. 673,650 arrivals in 2025, 516,600 arrivals in 2026, 543,600 arrivals in 2027. This means fewer newcomers will be admitted even as others leave. The sharpest drop comes in 2026, when the arrival target falls by more than 150,000 compared to 2025. This will hit schools, employers, and communities doubly hard. International students will face even tougher competition for permits. Industries like farming, construction, healthcare, and hospitality could be shut out of needed foreign workers. Asylum seekers may face longer waits or stricter rules. This arrival cap is the hidden crisis within the Levels Plan. While most people focus on 2025, the deeper squeeze is coming in 2026. Institutions and employers who only plan for 2025 risk being caught off guard when approvals fall further the next year. Survival strategies and solutions. For students, apply early and ensure proof of funds meets the new standard. Look at provinces with lower competition and schools that provide better pathways to permanent residency. Follow all study permit rules, including the 24-hour-per-week work cap during classes. For employers, prepare for shortages by investing in local hiring pipelines. Use automation and technology to make up for fewer workers. Focus hiring on permanent residents or recent graduates eligible for permanent residency. For institutions, diversify recruitment beyond high-risk regions. Strengthen domestic student bases to reduce reliance on international tuition. Advocate for exemptions in vital areas like healthcare and science. For communities, anticipate housing changes and prepare for possible vacancies. Support local businesses in adapting to reduced international demand. Work with local governments to attract and retain permanent residents. We've just seen how Canada's 2025 to 2027 plan is set to reshape the future for students, workers, and communities, with reductions unlike anything we've seen before. The effects will ripple across housing, education, and jobs, and what happens next will determine how welcoming Canada remains for years to come. And remember, the bigger challenge may still be ahead. The 2026 arrival caps could hit even harder, leaving fewer opportunities for newcomers and putting even more pressure on schools and employers. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective on these changes. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications because we'll keep breaking down every update that could affect your future in Canada. Thanks for watching Canada Chronicles. Stay informed, stay prepared, and I'll see you in the next video.